Brother and lads, welcome back to Cossy Podcast. My name is Cossy. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in all parts of the world. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to a brand new video. Sky Sports have just confirmed that Edu has started working on outgoings this week, and he is expected actually to finalize some of the deals in the coming days. So we might see a couple of departures, but also, according to Sky, Mikel Arteta has told Edu that he needs more signings. There are a few areas where he needs quality, where he needs new incomings and arrivals, and that one of those positions is actually a quality cover for Bukayo Saka. I'm going to be into what is left of our window. What should we be doing in the later parts of the window? Of course, sales is one thing I've talked about pretty much in the last week. I will talk about much about sales in this week as well. But according to Sky, Mikel Arteta is demanding more signings. A quality cover for Bukayo Saka cannot be ruled out, but to my surprise as well, the arrival of one more defender can also not be ruled out in the last days of the window. We're going to be diving into much of the talk. We're going to be, talking about who actually should be signing, and do we need another defender? Do we need another player in that defense? All that in this podcast. Hit the like button, subscribe to the podcast as well. In the comment box below, look, there is talk about Nicola Pepe staying at Arsenal and getting another chance. What do you think about that? Pepe, one of the players that I think Arsenal are really frustrated with, especially Mikel Arteta. Look, he came out and said that Mikel tried to help him out as a player. He did whatever he could. Now, I don't know whether he was trying to mean that Arteta doesn't have any blame in his failures at Arsenal, but he said Mikel helped me a lot when he came in at Arsenal, but it just didn't work out. So Eda right now is working on outgoings, but of course after that we are expecting a lot of incomings in terms of rumors and transfer targets as well. So according to Sky, the first thing is a player, a quality cover for Bukayo Saka on the right-hand side of the attack. I think it's a problem. It's a big problem. Last season we talked about it. Saka had this kind of drop-off towards the end of the season, and it actually affected his game. It also affected our gamer as well, because Saka is such a creative player. Like, we create many of our chances on that right-hand side, and you could see that Odegaard clearly outshone every other player in that team. Actually, Odegaard was the only player, was the last man standing in our season. He kept on creating, he kept on scoring goals, but the likes of Ben White, the likes of Saka, everyone who was actually playing on that right-hand side, including Thomas Partey, they fell off, and it was massive, and it affected us in terms of chance creation and goal scoring. On the left-hand side, I think we are really much sorted. Trossard coming in with those 10 assists in the later part of the season, it helped us since January. Gabriel Jesus coming back, he also tends to tilt himself towards that left-hand side, scores a lot of goals if you can get him in the right areas. And of course, Kai Havertz is also arriving. So the problem is on the right hand side, and in my opinion, actually, it is not only with Saka, it is also with Martin Odegaard. It's a point that we'll rarely talk about, but Odegaard is a very special profile, not special player. He is a special player for us, but he's a special profile of a player. Like, you see Ilkay Gundogan at Manchester City, or you've seen Bernardo Silva at Manchester City. Such players are very special and very, very rare. Like Ilkay Gundogan, you look for clutch players. You look players who are clutch, players that arrive and, deliver when you need them. They're very few, especially from midfield. The amount of goals he scores, the amount of goals he scores when he needs to score those goals, and the amount of important goals he chips in per season is just ridiculous. So, look, good luck to Manchester City finding a clutch player as clutch as Ilkay Gundogan. So, for me, for Arsenal, the next two steps: find a cover for Martin Odegaard. Whether that means that one of Emile Smith Rowe or Fabio Vieira leaves, or Mikel Arteta decides that Vieira will be cover for Odegaard, or we bring in someone and then a cover for Bukayo Saka. I think with Odegaard, it's easy. He's one of those players that don't pick up so many injuries. He's one of those players that have the ability to play 38 games in a campaign, and his output is always visible. He's a pressing monster, scores a lot of goals like we saw last campaign, and creates a lot of chances per 90 like we saw last campaign. But if something were to happen to him, if he picked up a red card, if he picked up an injury, Arsenal would struggle. Right at the moment, I don't think any player in this Arsenal side, maybe the one player that I think can give us half of what he provides is Declan Rice. But in terms of going forward, scoring goals and creating chances, I've not seen a player as comfortable in that midfield as Martin Odegaard. Going forward, creating chances and scoring goals. So I've always liked Julian Brandt, and I thought Arsenal could always have such a player in our squad. Very clutch as well. Now, he scores a lot of goals, by the way, Julian Brandt. It's one of the aspects of his game that go unnoticed. But one of the things I think about him is, as the more he's actually growing, the more he's becoming the Martin Odegaard, Ilkay Gundogan type of player. I don't see him as a player that is, attracted so much to going forward, but he will always make those late runs into the penalty area, and he will score some beautiful goals. So maybe if we added a player like Julian Brandt, not expensive at Borussia Dortmund right now, I think his contract is running down, so he could cost us around 20 to 25 million euros. I think that's a signing we could do. Actually, I thought Manchester City would look at him after losing after losing Ilkay Gundogan. I thought City would think about Julian Brandt, but look, I cannot think for City, right? But I think Arsenal should. We've talked about him for quite some time. We need cover for Odegaard. We need at least another midfielder, like one more midfielder. The obsession of Arsenal going for another defensive CDM, I don't understand. If you have Jorginho, you have Partey, you have Declan Rice, that's enough in my opinion. Like, Declan Rice is a 38-game player in a campaign. He's going nowhere. Thomas Partey, 30 games in a campaign, or maybe 27, and you can easily rotate him with Jorginho. So I don't see the need for another CDM. I would actually go for another midfield kind of controller, creative and goal-scoring midfielder to cover for Odegaard. And Julian Brandt would definitely be my pick. Of course, there are so many other players like, Gabri Veiga, but like I said, the profile of Odegaard is very, very rare. He's one of those players that you don't just go to the market and pick him up. I could go and get 100 Xhakas. I could go and get 100 Partes. I could go and get 100 Gabriel Jesus. But for you to look for a player like Martin Odegaard, like Luka Modric, that is what Madrid had actually signed. They had signed their next Luka Modric, a player who can control the game, create a lot of chances, score for you goals, and dominate each and every aspect on the pitch. Now, the quality cover for Saka is a big problem. It's going to be a very, very huge problem. It's going to be a decider whether our window is top-notch or just good. At the moment, I think our window is just good. It's very good, but just good, right? So, Saka's rotation is a topic we've talked about for 2 summers. And he's a player that has just announced himself as one of the most important players in the world. At Arsenal, in the Premier League, in Europe, for England, and also in the world as well. There is a question about players like Salah playing each and every single game, players like Messi playing each and every single game, Ronaldo, and the likes of Marcus Rashford, and I think Saka is going to be in that pool. So we shouldn't actually overprotect Saka when it comes to game time, right? Rotation is not a must. I've seen Salah play almost each and every game for Liverpool. I've seen Messi play each and every game for Barcelona, and I've seen players like Rashford play whenever he's fit. So I'm not trying to overprotect Saka, but I think there will be games where Saka, at his young age, needs to be rotated. There will be games where I've already seen in certain instances where Trossard is a much better option than Gabriel Martinelli. So I think this creates a dilemma. One, I think we need experience in that position where Saka plays. Like, you take off Saka, you need to introduce a player like Trossard. I think Trossard is a very good example. But again, we want to go low budget. So if you want to go low budget, it means you don't go for the experience. It means you don't go for the pedigree. You don't go for a player in his peak. You go for a young player that you can groom just to fit into the boots of Bukayo Saka in the future. And there's so many of those. You could go to South America and sign anyone. You could go to Brazil, Argentina, and anywhere. But when we say quality cover for Saka, it means that a player who can give us at least 60% of what Saka can provide. Kai Havertz can, but not 60%. Reece Nelson can, but not 60%. Trossard can, but probably up to 55%. Saka is such an important player in our squad. He's such a very important player to an extent that his bad game is Arsenal's bad game. His good game is Arsenal's good game. So in that regard, I think Arsenal will have to bite the bullet and raise our spending spree to 300 million and sign a player like Moussa Diaby. I think with Moussa Diaby, I've already talked much about him on this channel. We'll talk much about him if anything develops, but at the moment, it's very, very quiet and very silent. I think with Moussa Diaby, you have the perfect guy. Same age range as Saka, explosive, electric. But the difference with Saka is that he's got this ability to play, very centrally. And Saka loves to play very, very wide. Of course, it is the instructions of Mikel Arteta. He would love his wingers to play very wide, hold the width of the pitch just to make sure that you stretch the defense, you stretch the opponent's defense. But I think with a player like Moussa Diaby, we get something different. A player who plays centrally, a player who loves those straight runs into the penalty area, very creative, very good at scoring goals. So that's an area Arsenal have to address before the window ends. And I understand when Mikel says that he wants more players because that area is not catered for. A striker is an option, but I think for a striker, it will depend on how we deal with the situation of Balogun and Eddie Nketiah. Now, for me, Eddie is a player that I really think will stay at Arsenal. Now, we want to raise money and we want to get some cash back. And I've already said that Eddie and Florent Balogun, there you have your 90 million. There you have your 80 million euros, right? And then you could sell maybe Kieran Tierney, maybe you could sell one more other player, and then you're up to 150 million euros. But with the problem with our striking line, we have so many similar players. Like, they are very similar. You look at our midfield. Havertz is very different from Odegaard. Odegaard is different from Rice, and Rice is different from Partey, right? They're hybrids like Rice. Rice can, give you that go-between, can be the go-between between Partey and Havertz, Partey and Rice, Partey and Xhaka. But when it comes to the attack, for me, Eddie Nketiah is much more like Gabriel Jesus. Nketiah is always there in the box. That's the difference. Nketiah is always there in the penalty area. He's trying to wait for that service. Gabriel Jesus is going down in midfield looking for that service. But for me, a player like Dusan Vlahovic would be much better. He would actually suit into our, into our style, especially when we choose to go with something different. Now, I've seen West Ham are interested, and you have just confirmed that for a significant fee, they will sell. If he goes to West Ham, it will be a shame. Now, I'm not really surprised, and I won't be surprised that he goes from Fiorentina to Juve to West Ham. I won't be really surprised. Like, there is a trend. The trend is actually traceable. But I would rather go for Vlahovic over Scamacca. But I will also entertain the thought of Arsenal going for a player like Gianluca Scamacca. Gianluca Scamacca is not a big goal scorer, like at least not yet there, right? He's been at Sassuolo, and during his time at Sassuolo, I didn't see the goals. Yes, he did have a good campaign, I think around 15 goals. Then he signed for West Ham, where it has actually not worked out. But Scamacca is the direct opposite of Gabriel Jesus. He's more like a target man, a board. You just hit those balls up there, and he will retain the ball until you provide support. And it would be very, very important in games where we don't have possession. He would be very important in games where you need a second striker on the pitch, and a striker that we call a striker. We've seen Eddie Nketiah hop onto the pitch when Arsenal need a goal, and it has actually not changed. I don't remember one game that Nketiah came on, and I was like, we've added a second striker to the game, so we might actually score. I don't remember that game. So I think you need such a striker that if you are 1-1, 1-0 down, you need a goal desperately, you can call onto him, add him to the mix, and have two strikers on the pitch. I think Skamaka, I think Vlahovic is also something Mikel Arteta should look at. But definitely, he knows he needs a striker. That's why he says he needs more signings. And a defender. Look, one more defender. This one comes to my surprise, actually, because I think I would have thought that we are done with defense. I would have thought that we are done with our defending. Although, I expect some departures as well. Like, Rob Holding could leave. I don't know about Kieran Tierney. Tierney could stay, couldn't he? Tierney could stay because the rumors and the talk of him staying or leaving has actually cooled down. So probably it's decided I'll stay and occasionally play in a back three, occasionally play in a back four, occasionally be on the bench as Alexander Zinchenko starts. But if Kieran Tierney was to leave, Rob Holding was to leave as well, and one surprising departure, maybe Tomiyasu, maybe Gabriel, maybe Ben White. I'm just saying, and one surprising departure. That's where I would see a need for another defender. But now, right now, I think we're sorted. I think defense, we are sorted. We just need to find an Odegaard cover, a Saka cover, and a striker that gives us something different. Look, with a striker, I don't know if we can agree a deal with Ivan Toney and with Brentford so that when his ban actually expires, he joins the team. Because that would be interesting. That would be like signing a player like Ivan Toney. He doesn't play for half of the season, right? Actually, it's not half of the season. I think he's gonna miss 8 months. His ban started in May, so May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. So he comes back in January or February potentially. I think a player like Ivan Toney can win you the league. I think if we sign Toney as an option to Gabriel Jesus, he would eventually overtake Gabriel Jesus in the starting 11 because Toney is such a very good player when it comes to, dropping deep. He's a very good player when it comes to hold-up play. He's a very good player when it comes to, finishing. He's a striker with a lot of command, takes his penalties with a lot of confidence, and I've seen him score very crucial goals for Brentford. If he scored 20 last campaign, he's got the ability to score 30 in a club like Arsenal. But let's see what Mikel Arteta is thinking and planning. But he says more signings are needed, and they are underway.